Welcome to Shocking History Photos, where rare images bring forgotten stories back to life. If you think the Wild West was all outlaws, shootouts and chaos, you're only seeing half the picture. In this video, you'll uncover 52 rare photos from the real American frontier. Each image reveals the quiet victories, raw moments, and untold truths of the people who lived it. Moments that will completely change how you see the Old West. Let's get into them. It's 1906, somewhere in Montana. A meal is roasting over the fire at the Gros Ventre camp. Some say it was a dog. On the frontier, survival meant using what you had. Hard choices were part of life. Still, there's something steady in the way they lived and carried on. This yard in Dodge City held over 40,000 buffalo hides. It's hard to picture now, but back then, hides meant money, and Dodge was booming. Traders would exchange them for goods, tools, and even land. For a while, stacks like these were just part of everyday life. No one asked how long it would last. A man sits in a wooden boat with a mast on the edge of the Colorado River in Black Canyon, Arizona. The photo was taken in 1871 by Timothy O'Sullivan, who was working as a military photographer. It was captured from Expedition Camp 8, looking quietly upstream, before this land was ever mapped or tamed. It's 1885, near San Carlos, Arizona. Farming families are crossing the Gila River in buckboard wagons. They are heading toward the San Pedro Valley. Most are tired of dry land, failed crops, and promises that never came true back in Texas. With this move, they hope to find what they couldn't back home. A row of saloons and disreputable little places lined the edge of town in Hazen, 1905. Not much polish, but plenty of stories. Travelers, drifters, and workers passed through, looking for a drink, a card game, or just a place to forget the day. Okanogan, Washington, 1907. A cow carries 7 children to school, at least according to the original caption. Whether it was a real school run or just a playful moment, no one knows. Either way, it's a rare little glimpse into how simple and surprising life was back then. The year is 1907. A lone rider stops at a desert well 30 miles north of Palomas, Arizona. Water is rare out here. He refills his keg while his horse refreshes himself nearby. He's heading south, maybe to the border. Just a quiet moment before the desert begins again. A group of Apache prisoners sit beside the Southern Pacific tracks, waiting to be moved. After years of conflict, they were being sent to far-off reservations. They don't look angry. Most stare calmly into the camera like people who've seen too much to say much. A group of men are gathered around a faro table in the saloon in Bisbee, Arizona. They're not after trouble, just passing the evening with cards and quiet laughs. It was one of those nights where no one was in a rush to leave. A random new settler is looking for a lot in Guthrie, Oklahoma. It's 1889, and the town barely exists yet. Everyone's trying to claim their piece of something that isn't built yet, but already feels like a new beginning. A blacksmith works, fully lost in his craft. It's Guthrie, Oklahoma, 1889, and he's built the town's first shop. In places like this, nothing really started until the blacksmith showed up. Folks needed him for everything: shoes, tools, and sometimes just someone to talk to. This is the first house on the present site of Dodge City, Kansas, sometime around 1872. A man stands in the doorway, maybe proud, maybe just tired. There's nothing around him but flat land and sky. But for a little while, it was all his because he was the first. Somewhere on John Doyle's ranch in Arizona, the late 1880s, 3 men sit around a poker game, lost in their cards. No one's posing. Maybe they didn't even know the photo was being taken. It's the kind of moment that wasn't meant to last, but somehow did. Inside the Table Bluff Hotel Saloon, somewhere in Humboldt County, California. 4 men look straight at the camera. The place looks nicer than most. Maybe it was payday, or maybe they just wanted to feel like gentlemen for a while. Either way, it's a quiet moment that stayed. It's somewhere in Arizona, 1898. These men are laying down tracks for the new railroad. It's hot, heavy work. Most of the labor back then was quiet, having no questions. Maybe they didn't know how much it would change everything. They just did the job and kept moving. A quiet capture of a family and their covered wagon during the Great Western Migration. Like so many others, they packed everything they had and headed toward the unknown. In a vast, empty stretch with no towns in sight, this was just a small pause in a long journey. This isn't a photo of a fair. It's actually the start of a brand new town in Anadarko, Oklahoma, in 1901. The auction's happening inside the lumber company's booth. People are claiming land. A temporary bank stands nearby. It all feels shaky and chaotic, but this is how towns began back then. A random photo of a small discovery party captured in Utah, 1909. These explorers are making their way across the hot, slick rocks of Navajo Mountain, headed toward Rainbow Bridge. They look slow and careful. Back then, just reaching the place was a kind of discovery on its own. It's around 1902. A cowboy stands with his lasso ready, watching the herd. His fellow cowpunchers wait in the distance. Young ranch hands, working long days for little pay and a place to sleep. It was tough work, but for many, it was all they knew. Colorado, 1911. Buckboards and coaches zigzag down the winding W Road on Pikes Peak. It was a long ride, but people came for the view and the feeling of reaching the top. The road twisted sharply, but no one rushed. It was the kind of trip you remembered. A random photo from 1875, deep in San Juan County, Colorado. This was the camp of miners working the North Star and mountaineer loads. Tents, tools, and long days in the cold. They came chasing gold, but mostly found hard work and quiet nights in the hills. A photo of a gold rush town in Dakota. Tents turned into saloons, and strangers became neighbors. Everyone was chasing gold, but most stayed for the chance to start over. It was noisy, messy, and full of hope, the kind of place that only lasted for a little while. A group of women stand calmly in front of the Klondike Dance Hall and Saloon in Seattle. Places like this offered music, drinks, and a bit of escape. For many, it was a place to pass the time, meet faces, and feel part of something, if only for a while. This is just a random shot of a street view in Corinne, Utah, 1869. The railroad had just arrived, and towns like this sprang up fast. Corinne was one of the few non-Mormon towns in the area, built on trade and rail traffic. Somewhere in Oklahoma, 1895, a teacher stands with her students in front of a sod schoolhouse built from dirt and grass. In some places, there wasn't even a school like this, but here they made one. Because even with nothing, they believed learning still mattered. This photo quietly reminds us that the Wild West wasn't just lawlessness and guns. It was also people trying to build something better. This is Texas, 1905. One man rides a wooden barrel strapped to a small donkey cart. Another barrel is pulled behind a second donkey, rolling slowly across the dust. These were the two common ways of hauling water back then. It was hard, but it kept life moving in the dry Southwest. Somewhere in Arizona, 1871, correspondent Fred W. Loring stands beside his mule, likely on assignment. He was traveling through the frontier, writing the stories of others. 2 days later, he was killed in an Apache attack. This became his last photograph. Somewhere deep in Browns Basin, Arizona, early 1900s, 2 Crabtree boys, their father, a few dogs, and a pair of burros. They were hunters and maybe just taking a rest before the next trip out. Their cabin sat near Long Creek, right at the mouth of a place folks called Hell's Hip Pocket. Life was rough, but that's just how it was back then. A quiet fishing camp set up by Chinese settlers in Point San Pedro, California, 1889. No people in sight, but maybe they lived here, catching fish, cooking by the shore, and keeping to themselves. It's a peaceful moment from a life built far from home. Members of the Shoshone tribe are dancing on the reservation at Fort Washakie, Wyoming, 1892. It's their traditional dance, passed down through generations. More than just movement, it was a way to hold on to identity, history, and spirit, at a time when so much else was being taken away. A group of Apaches are delivering hay to American settlers in Arizona, 1893. It looks almost like a quiet market day. Horses, bundles, and dust in the air. Ordinary people trading, helping, and getting by. Scenes like this didn't make the history books, but they were everyday life. Forest Grove, Oregon, 1882. A group of blacksmithing students work quietly, each focused on their task. The teacher stands in the back, hands behind his back, just watching. Out here, learning a trade like this meant having a future you could build with your own hands. Near Oriana, Nevada, 1867, members of Clarence King's 40th Parallel Survey team take a quiet break. They were part of a massive effort to map the American West, measuring land, collecting rocks, and writing it all down. Before highways and borders, teams like this helped shape the map. A quiet view of the pyramid and domes, natural tufa rock formations rising from the water in Nevada, 1867. Long before this became a photo spot, it was a place of meaning for the Paiute people. In this still moment, it feels untouched, almost otherworldly. A random shot of the old mission church at Zuni Pueblo, New Mexico, taken from the plaza in 1873. The adobe walls look worn but strong, like they've stood through wind, time, and change. It's quiet now, but this place once echoed with voices, prayers, and footsteps on packed earth. A man sits quietly on the rocky shore of the Colorado River, deep in Iceberg Canyon, 1871. The canyon walls rise around him, silent and still. He's on the border of Arizona and Nevada, but back then it was just open land and water. This is the darkroom wagon of Timothy O'Sullivan, photographed in Carson Sink, Nevada in 1867. Pulled by 4 mules, it carried the equipment he used to develop photos right there in the field. You can even see his footsteps in the sand, walking back to capture the moment. A man is working deep underground in the silver mines of Virginia City, Nevada in 1867. Photographer Timothy O'Sullivan followed him there nearly 900 feet below ground. Using a burning magnesium wire for light, he captured scenes from the Comstock lode, America's richest silver strike. It was hot, dark, and dangerous, but this was life for many. Nearly 150 years ago, O'Sullivan came across this old Spanish carving in the sandstone at El Morro, New Mexico. It had been left behind in 1726, long before cameras, long before trains. The inscription marked the passing of Ensign Don Joseph de Paiva Vasconcelos. One traveler quietly notes his place in history. Near Old Fort Defiance, New Mexico, 1873, a Navajo family sits outside their home. Life here was tough, and resources were few, but there's still a sense of quiet strength in the way they sit, close together, holding on to their way of life through everything. A quiet shot of a man bathing in Pagosa Hot Springs, Colorado, 1874. It's quiet, calm, and probably the best break he's had. Among the brutal outlawry of the West, quiet moments like this almost feel impossible. But they happened. Washakie Badlands, Wyoming, 1872. A survey team member stands in the corner, almost lost in the strange rock formations around him. It feels quiet, still, like they were seeing this place for the first time. Old Tascosa, Texas, 1907. Cowboys enjoy drinks at the Equity Bar. Their hats, shirts, boots, and the way they stand, it's not a movie scene, it's just how they really were. Rough days, quiet nights, and a drink with friends to end it. 3 men sit inside the White Elephant Saloon, Fort Worth, late 1800s. This saloon stood tall among the 60 or so others in the city, known for its style and swagger. They're probably in the middle of a card game with coin piles stacked on the table. In a saloon somewhere out west, a group of men point their guns at another man's boots, likely yelling for him to dance. It's a strange mix of fun and danger, half a joke, half a warning. This moment was captured in the 1880s when the line between the two was often thin. A random photo of the Circle City Saloon in Nome, Alaska, 1902. This town sprang up fast during the gold rush. Muddy streets, wooden shacks, and saloons full of noise. For a while, Nome was one of the wildest and fastest growing places in the Wild West. Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show, 1890. More than just a show, it was America telling stories about itself. Buffalo Bill, once a real scout and buffalo hunter, turned frontier life into a performance. With cowboys, sharpshooters, and Native Americans, the show toured the world, shaping how people imagined the West. Villa of Brule, 1891. Somewhere on the plains of South Dakota, horses drink from a narrow canal while a man stands at the edge, maybe guiding them. This was a Lakota Sioux village, quiet, steady, and deeply tied to the land. Ox teams line up with heavy wagons near Sturgis, South Dakota, slow, steady, and built for hauling. Before the railroads reached every town, this was how goods moved across the frontier. The year was around 1887. The bathhouse at Hot Springs, Arkansas, 1891. People came from miles away, aching backs, bad lungs, worn spirits, hoping the warm spring water might help. It wasn't fancy, just tiled halls and rising steam. But for many, this was the closest they came to rest or relief. This random photo is of Deadwood, South Dakota, in 1888. The town gathers to celebrate a new stretch of railroad, another link to the outside world. For a place once built on gold and grit, the sound of a train whistle meant something big. Progress, connection, and maybe even a future beyond the hills. A man is working with a massive grizzly laid out on a rock, surrounded by Generals Custer and Ludlow, Scout Bloody Knife, and a few others from the expedition. In August 1874, during Custer's Black Hills expedition, they brought down the bear. It appears calm in the photo, lying still after several shots, a rare and quiet trophy from the unknown frontier. These images and the quiet stories behind them reveal a side of the American frontier we rarely get to see. Which one stood out to you the most? Drop the number in the comments below. And if you love discovering forgotten photos and untold history, make sure to subscribe to Shocking History Photos. There's so much more ahead.